Today we're focusing on grammar, and we're going to help you avoid making some common grammar mistakes that Spanish speakers sometimes make. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello, I'm Reza.
And I'm Craig.
And with over 45 years of teaching experience between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you, Craig?
I'm very well, thank you, Reza. And how are you?
I'm very well myself.
Okay, this week we have a voice message to begin with from Maria Jesus from Valencia.
Hello, Reza. Hello, Greg. This is Maria Jesus from Valencia. Firstly, to congratulate both of you because your podcasts are amazing and very entertaining, and they make my day every time I listen to you. Second, to convey my concerns about my writing and oral interaction with others because I find it hard when it comes to interact naturally and especially or particularly to write in a proper way. Please tell me if you teach for a group or individual classes in Valencia. Thanks for everything and keep on going. Bye.
Well, thank you very much, Maria Jesus. It's lovely to hear from you from Valencia, where we are also podcasting from at the moment, so we possibly are neighbours. Before we answer your question, Maria Jesus, one small thing, the verb to congratulate. I think you said congrat. So remember the verb to congratulate. Congratulate you on your podcast. But your message was very, very clear. We understood everything. And I really liked a couple of expressions that you used. You said, they make my day, which is a lovely expression. That was Clint Eastwood as well, wasn't it, Reza, in
That's right.
a Dirty Harry film, Make My Day, punk. But you really make my day with your podcast was a lovely expression. And I find it hard to interact. It's also quite an advanced expression that you don't hear non-native speakers use very often. So well done on that and on your message. Any comments, Reza?
Yes, Maria Jesus, it was a very good message and very good pronunciation. But I noticed one other little structural error. You said, when it comes to interact, actually, you should say, when it comes to interacting with ing. So it's a very good expression when it comes to, but it's followed by ing, not infinitive, because that to is preposition to. When it comes to interacting, you say you have problems. Well, I don't know. Your oral interaction, well, we haven't exactly interacted with you, I guess, but your oral production, in other words, your speaking seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, very impressive speaking. The only thing I can suggest to be more interactive is there are places in Valencia that have intercambios where you can go to speak English. Maybe you'd have to speak English for half an hour, then Spanish for half an hour to help an English speaker. But there are places in Valencia that have these English clubs. They're usually cafes or bars. If you send me an email, craig@inglespodcast.com, I'll send you a couple of websites that have these intercambios advertised so you can find one or two in Valencia and just go along by yourself or with a friend, have a couple of drinks and sit with some people, make some new friends and speak English. And that's a really good way in a social situation of practicing your interaction and your speaking to improve your confidence a little bit and get some practice by speaking with native speakers and with other Spanish speakers. Reza, what about writing? How can Maria Jesus improve her writing? She doesn't say exactly what she's writing. Now, you can write to pass an exam. Maybe Maria Jesus is sending work emails and she needs to improve her correspondence by email. Maybe she writes poems and short stories and she wants help with creative writing. Are you offering private lessons on Skype at the moment?
At the minute, no, I'm not. I'm afraid, Maria Jesus. I just don't have time. But in the future, I might. So, I mean, stay in touch. And if we have some free time in the future, we might be able to help you. But the problem is, at the minute, time and correcting writing takes quite a lot of time. It's not like dealing with speaking, which you do in the act. In other words, as it's happening, you can correct it and improve it there and then. But writing has to be looked at carefully, examined. You have to read the feedback, do it again, improve. And we just don't have the time at the minute.
I do sometimes offer private classes, paid classes on Skype, but it's usually for very specific purposes. Maybe students who need to practice their speaking for an exam, or they have a job interview, or they have to give a presentation in English for work, for example. So I don't give regular general English classes, but if there's something like really important in your life that you need special coaching and help with, I do sometimes do that. You can find details on our website at inglespodcast.com where it says clases particulares. But I think what you'd really need is long-term coaching for a longer time. There is a very good website for exam writing for FCE and for CAE. It's a Spanish person called Rubén Valero. There's a link in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/242. And his website address is rubenvalero.com/English. He has some very, very good tips and advice for people writing and taking exams, Cambridge exams. Thank you, Maria Jesus, for your message.
Right, Craig. Shall we get down to our main topic today?
Yes, let's.
So, as we said in the introduction, we're going to be talking about grammar mistakes that Spanish speakers make. Well, yes, but that doesn't mean that other speakers don't make them as well. So some of these mistakes are also common mistakes of perhaps French, German, Chinese speakers, whatever. We don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But for sure, they are typical mistakes of Spanish speakers. We know that.
So the first one we have, number one, is, I think, a direct translation from Spanish. Sometimes you hear, I have 24 years, for example. Tengo 24 años. I have. No, don't say that. That's wrong. It should be, I'm 24. Or perhaps, I'm 24 years old. So don't make that direct translation. Tengo 40 años. I'm 40, for example.
Yes, and as Craig said, you can say years old or nothing, but actually it's wrong if you just say years. I'm 24 years? No. You have to say years old or just say I'm 24. 2 words or no word. Years old or nothing.
Reza, what's wrong with number 2? Reza has phoned you an hour ago. Why is that incorrect?
Oh, I've heard that mistake many times. Has phoned, present perfect. An hour ago, An hour ago, no way. An hour ago is a specific time.
In the past.
In the past, it's finished. If it's, let's say it's 12 o'clock now, well, an hour ago was 11 o'clock. That's specific. You cannot use present perfect when you say specifically what time in the past something happened. You've got to use past simple. So, Reza phoned you an hour ago is the correct version.
Number 3, this one, let's see if you can find the mistake because it's not easy. Listen, there are always bad news in the newspapers. Listen again. There are always bad news in the newspapers. What's wrong with that sentence?
And classic for Spanish speakers because you think news is plural. Well, it's not. It should be there is always bad news in the newspapers. The word news in English is uncountable, and it goes with a singular verb in English.
Yeah, because in Spanish you'd say las noticias, but yeah, it's uncountable. It's uncountable noun.
But Craig, imagine we wanted to count the news. Let's say there were 5 stories in a news bulletin. How could we count it?
5 news stories?
Simple as that.
Or 5 pieces of news. Yeah, there are 5 pieces of news on today's news stories. Yeah. Of course, you could also say some news. I have some news for you. I have some bad news.
What about this sentence, the 4th one? Nicole Kidman acts really good.
That's a problem with adjectives and adverbs. If you're describing the way she acts, you need an adverb. So you need well. She acts really well. So you could use good to describe the noun and say she's a good actress. She acts really well. Reza's a good teacher. He teaches really well.
The problem with this one is that some native speakers even make that mistake. Native speakers with not very correct English. But you can't hear people in Britain and Ireland and America say, oh, blah, 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 acts really good, teaches really good. They're wrong.
Yeah.
You can hear it, but it's wrong.
Common in North America too. How you feeling? Oh, I'm good. I'm well. What's the next one? Number 5. My friend has a son. My friend has...
Do you mind if I read this one?
Go on.
Because I just want to do it.
Oh, you want to do it with the accent?
Yeah. Number 5, we threw in the name of a famous actor because I love the way some Spanish people mispronounce this. Let me see. My friend has a son which he looks like Sylvester Stallone. If you understood that, well done. I'll try and say it now in a normal accent. My friend has a son which looks like Sylvester Stallone, not Sylvester Stallone. I've heard people say Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone. What is wrong with that?
Well, the pronoun which, because use which for things and who for people. So the correct sentence is, my friend has a son who looks like Sylvester Stallone.
Who, or it could be that as well.
It could be that, yes. That can replace who or which. Next one, number 6. Reza and Craig are living in Spain for more than 20 years. We are living here for more than 20 years. What's the problem there, Reza?
Well, we understand you, but not are living. If you want to be correct, your correct grammar should say, Reza and Craig have been living in Spain for more than 20 years because we started more than 20 years ago and we have continued up to now and we are living here at the minute. So it's present perfect continuous because present perfect always connects the past and the present. So we started 20 years ago and we're still doing it now. Not present continuous are living, but present perfect continuous have been living.
And notice there that Reza used ago with past simple. Started living 20 years ago. So remember, ago with past simple and for or since with present perfect. We've been living here for 20 years. We've been living here since 1998.
For me, and I think you, 1997, you were a bit earlier.
I was a bit earlier, yeah. By the way, you can see all of these sentences written on our website at inglespodcast.com/242. So if you would like to read these sentences as we're explaining them, just go to the website and you'll see them in the show notes. What's number 7?
Number 7, here we go. I must to buy some milk before Mum gets here.
Oh, classic mistake.
Yeah. We'll give you a clue. There's an extra word which should not be there. What word is wrong?
What happens after modal verbs with the next verb? So I must to buy is wrong. You never have to after modal verbs. So it's infinitive without to. I must buy. It's the same with any full modal verb. I should buy, I could buy, I might buy. I must buy, I can't buy. Never use to after modal verbs.
And what about the third person singular? He, she, it. What if I said she? Do I say she must buy?
No, modal verbs do not change in the third person. They stay exactly the same.
And also, obviously, then neither should we say she must buys. Nope. Because as Craig said, it's the modal must plus infinitive without to. Without to.
Reza, let me give you a good advice. Never get married.
Oh, and Craig should know because he is married.
No, it's just an example.
But there's still some time for me. I'm still free and single.
At the moment, let me give you a good advice. Why is that wrong?
Classic. Un buen consejo, bueno, me parece bien. But in English, I'm afraid, no. Let me give you some good advice because it's uncountable. But if you insist on counting and you want to say it's un consejo, not dos, not tres, uno, then you could say a piece of advice. Earlier, Craig mentioned a piece of news. Well, a piece of advice, then we can count a piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces. So advice is uncountable. So we say some advice, or we say a piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces of advice.
Like a piece of chocolate. Number 9, I can't pass this stupid exam. I don't have vocabulary enough.
Oh.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, it's another classic mistake, the word enough. Sometimes enough goes before, but sometimes it goes after what we're talking about. So it should be, I don't have enough vocabulary. First enough, then vocabulary. But why do we say then, Reza wanted to be a pilot, but he wasn't intelligent enough?
Or good enough.
Or good enough. Now I've put it the other way around. Why? Well, because enough vocabulary is a noun. Put enough before the noun. But good enough, intelligent enough, put enough after an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
That's the golden rule.
Number 10, I'm not drinking alcohol. I don't like the taste. Why does that sound strange? I'm not drinking alcohol. I don't like the taste.
That doesn't make sense. I'm not drinking alcohol could be grammatically correct in a different context, but he said, I don't like the taste. Oh, well, then it doesn't make sense. It should be, I don't drink alcohol. Present simple, not present continuous. Because if you don't like the taste, well, that means, generally speaking, you don't drink alcohol because you don't like the taste.
It's a habit.
It's a permanent thing. You could say in a different situation, I'm not drinking alcohol today because I don't feel well. Okay, that's just temporary. That could be present continuous. But as a general rule or as a habit, you don't drink alcohol, then present simple.
Another common mistake because of mistranslation, not translating or translating directly from Spanish to English. Listen to this one, number 11. Nearly all people in Spain likes rice.
Oh, yes.
Which should be casi toda la gente o todas las personas.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Classic. People is the plural of person. So it's third person plural. So the verb should be plural. I like, you like, he, she, it likes. We like, you like, people, they like. Third person plural. They like, people like. No S on the verb.
Except if you say everyone or everybody, because all people, I think, is also a direct translation from Spanish. Toda la gente. It's more common in English to say everyone So everyone likes rice. And you'd use the third person because everyone is cada uno. So it's third person, tercera persona. The same with everybody, cada cuerpo. So it's third person singular. Use the S. Probably the most common way to say that. Everyone in Spain likes rice. Or everybody in Spain likes rice.
Number 12 is this. Mistake. I am looking forward to receive the information as soon as possible. You might think it sounds all right, but it isn't. What's the mistake there, Craig?
After looking forward to, when you have a verb, always make it a gerund. And going back to Maria Jesus's comment, you can always or nearly always finish an email or a letter with that expression because you're usually expecting a reply. You're looking forward to something. So you could say, for example, I'm looking forward to receiving the information as soon as possible, gerund. I'm looking forward to meeting you at the airport. I'm looking forward to visiting your country. I'm looking forward to spending time with you at Christmas. I'm looking forward to visiting your university. Whatever you're saying, you could finish an email or letter with that expression. Just remember that the verb must finish in ing. Receiving, meeting, visiting, etc.
Number 13. Pepito hasn't never been abroad.
Poor Pepito.
He's got to travel more.
Yeah, he's also using a double negative. He has two negatives there. So has not, never is not correct. You can say Pepito has never been abroad. So just one negative, never, has never been abroad. Or Pepito hasn't ever been abroad. So just one negative. Don't have two negatives in the same clause.
The next one is just a little mistake, but, let's get things right. Here it goes. Reza goes rarely to the pub at lunchtimes. Rarely.
That's a big mistake. You should go more often.
Yes, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I should relax a bit more. So rarely is the opposite of often. Reza goes rarely to the pub at lunchtimes.
Yeah, always have your adverbs of frequency before the main verb. Rarely is an adverb of frequency. It's similar to sometimes, always, never, usually. So right before the verb is goes. Reza rarely goes to the pub at lunchtimes.
The only exception, though, is after the verb to be.
Yes.
So Reza is, I'm afraid, Reza is sometimes late.
I'm not sure if I agree with your choice of adverb.
Right. So late he agrees with. Craig might say Reza is always late.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say Reza is rarely on time.
A very diplomatic way of saying it. So Reza is rarely on time. The verb to be goes before the adverb, is rarely. But all other verbs go after. So Reza rarely goes.
Number 15. Let's see if you can find the mistake in this sentence. Valencia has such a fantastic weather. Which, if you translate to Spanish, makes sense.
Yep. But I'm afraid the word weather in English is uncountable. So you cannot say Valencia has such fantastic weather. Take away
16. Juan has been working as a waiter since 8 months. What's wrong with that?
Classic again. Since, no. 8 months is a duration. It's a period of time. So 4 is a period of time. For a day, for a long time, for many years, or for 8 months.
So if he's been working as a waiter for 8 months, you can say he's been working as a waiter since April. So since is el punto en el pasado, and for is el tiempo que ha pasado.
Now the next sentence is completely false. Just an example. Craig's English lessons are always bored. It's not true. They're not bored at all.
Well, it's wrong grammatically because you have to be careful with your passive adjectives and your active adjectives. If you are bored by my lessons. So it's my lessons that are boring you. So boring is the active thing. It has an effect on you. And bored is how you feel. So it's the passive. You're bored by something. If Reza's lessons are really interesting, you are interested.
Yes, the problem is not the idea, because in Spanish you have a similar rule. You say interesado, interesante, interested, interesting. You say sorprendido, sorprendente, surprise, surprising. You say excitado, excitante, excited and exciting. But for some weird reason, this time it's Spanish, which is weird, which is strange. You say bored, aburrido, and you say boring, aburrido.
It's the same.
I don't know why, but in Spanish it's the same word.
It's quite boring, isn't it?
Yeah. You should have invented another word. I do not know why you didn't. There should be a word in Spanish. I'm going to invent the word aburriente. It should exist.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. For some reason, you use the same in Spanish just in that one case.
Okay, let's start a campaign. Aburriente is a new word that we want introduced into the Real Español.
Yeah, and so aburriente, boring.
Yeah. When you make this exercise, make your best not to do mistakes.
Oh,
What's the problem there?
there's a couple of problems there.
There's 3.
Now, you don't make an exercise, you do an exercise. And you don't make your best, you do your best. And you don't, the word don't is adding more confusion here. And you don't do mistakes, you make mistakes. So if we put in all the corrections, Craig, we have...
When you do this exercise, do your best not to make mistakes. Be careful of your do and make collocations. We have spoken about collocations with do and make, Reza. Do you remember when?
A long time ago. I think it was episode 2, was it? Or 1?
Episodes 1 and 2 back in 2014, but we only mentioned a few expressions. What we will do, and this is a promise to you, in the new year, we will create a podcast with do and make as the topic.
Yes, Craig. Number 19. I'm agree with you.
Oh, can you repeat that? There was a mistake in there.
Yes, what Craig said about the podcast, I am agree with you.
No, Reza, because agree is a verb. I agree with you. This is a common mistake I hear, especially FCE First B2 students who are taking the speaking test. When you're speaking with your partner, make sure you say I agree and not I'm agree. What's the noun of agree, Reza?
Agreement.
So you can say I'm in agreement with you. Although that's a little more formal, maybe that's a good expression for a job interview or a meeting. Normally, you'd just say, I agree. So remember, I agree, or I don't agree.
Yes, Craig's advice there is invaluable. It's very useful. Don't get it wrong in the first certificate speaking. And don't say it 50 times either. We get so tired of hearing people saying, what do you think? Blah, 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 blah. I agree. A minute later, I agree. I agree. Oh, there's so many ways to say that you agree. And the worst thing ever in a speaking exam is not only to say I agree 20 times, but to get it wrong and say 20 times, I am agree. That's the worst thing ever.
So what other expressions could students use that mean I agree?
I agree. You're quite right. I see your point. I'm with you.
That's right. Absolutely.
Sure. I see what you're saying. Many ways to say
I
that you
agree up to a point. You could also modify it with an adverb and say, I totally agree. I completely agree. I absolutely agree. Or I agree 100% with you. Number 20. I was late due to the traffic was bad. Another common mistake. I was late due to the traffic was bad. What's the problem there, Reza?
Well, you've got to be careful with the expression due to. You could say, I was late due to the fact that the traffic was bad. That would be okay, because due to, well, the word to here is a preposition. So prepositions, if they're followed by verbs, it has to be gerund, ing. So you could also say, I was late due to the traffic being bad, being. That's one possibility. Or you put in the words, the fact that, due to the fact that, and then you can use a normal subject and verb. The traffic was bad.
21. I'll borrow you my camera if I can lend your car for the weekend. What do you think?
Yes, confusing lend and borrow, which are opposites. Lend is give, borrow is receive temporarily.
So the correct sentence, I'll lend you my camera if I can borrow your car for the weekend.
And you lend something to someone and you borrow something from someone. Craig, what's 22 on our list?
Let's see if you can find the mistake in this sentence. The people want money, but they don't like to work for it. The people want money, but they don't like to work for it.
Well, presuming we're talking about in general, most people, then no the. Just people want money, but they don't like to work for it. People in general.
So if you're speaking about the people in your village, yes, you can use the because you're speaking about specific people. The people in my village, or the people in my area, or the people in my building. But as Reza said, if it's in general, no article.
Craig, what about the next one? Fish and chips is a popular English plate.
Ooh, yes, plate, plato. The problem is, in Spanish, plato can mean the physical plate that you put the food on, and it can also be the type of food. But in English, we have two words. So plate is the thing that your food is on, and you put the plate on the table and you eat from the plate. But spaghetti is an Italian dish, and paella is a Spanish dish, and fish and chips is an English dish. So dish is the type of food. Be careful of the difference between dish and plate, because both words in Spanish are plato.
Craig, we've got a question for you, number 24. Excuse me, could you tell me where is the nearest bank?
Ooh, that sounds like an indirect question, because the direct question is, where's the nearest bank? Where is the nearest bank? Notice the position of is, because when you make an indirect question, when you use an indirect question, you change the order, and is goes at the end. The verb to be goes at the end. So the correct sentence is, excuse me, could you tell me where the nearest bank is? I was wondering where the nearest bank is. I'd like to know where the nearest bank is.
If you want more information about indirect questions, we did an episode on that.
Yes, if you want to listen to one of our podcasts that focuses on indirect questions and how to ask them correctly, go to inglespodcast.com/50, because we did a special episode with our friend Nicola, and we speak all about indirect and direct questions. What's 25, Reza? 5 more to go.
The next question, 25, also has an indirect question, which I'm going to ask. And let's see if Craig can answer. Craig, do you think Madrid will win the league this year?
The Football League? I don't hope so. What's wrong with that? I don't hope so.
Sounds all right if you're Spanish, but no. You'd have to say, I hope not.
If you don't like Madrid. What do you say if you do like Madrid?
Then you would say, I hope so. so. Yes, I want them to win. So positive, yes, I hope so. Negative, no, I hope not.
And the question was, do you think Madrid will win the league this year? So you could also answer, I think so, creo que sí, or I don't think so is the negative.
And what's the difference between hope and think? Well, as Craig said, hope is a question of like. So if you hope so, you like Madrid, so you want them to win.
Tienes esperanza.
Yeah, and if you say, I hope not, you don't like Madrid, so you don't want them to win. But let's be honest, Real Madrid are a very good team. So even if you don't like them, there's a good chance that they will win. So imagine you say, well, I don't like Real Madrid, but will they win? I think so. They're very good. So I don't want them to win, maybe, but I think they're going to win. So think is what you predict simply will happen, and hope is what you want to happen.
Do you think Valencia will win the league this year?
I'm afraid I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Or next year, or the year after, or the year after.
Well, let's be hopeful. 26. How do you call this in English? Classic mistake. How do you call this in English? What's the problem?
Looks all right, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Como se dice? Yeah, but that's, what do you call this?
Yeah.
What do you call this?
Or how do you say this? So be careful not to mix those two. What do you call this? Or how do you say this?
27. See if there are any Simpsons fans. Bart Simpson isn't used to do homework every day. He's very lazy, so he isn't used to do homework every day. Well, that's not good grammar.
No, sometimes people confuse used to, which is acostumbrarse, which has the gerund. So the correct sentence there would be, he isn't used to doing, no está acostumbrado. And they confuse the grammar with used to past, which is soler or solía. So that would be infinitive. And sometimes it's also confused with usually, the adverb of frequency. So you could say Bart Simpson doesn't usually do homework every day, or he isn't used to doing it. So be careful of not confusing usually, used to past with the infinitive, and used to acostumbrarse with gerund, used to doing.
Number 28 is another classic. I went to the nightclub by my own.
Ooh, by my own. Confusing two expressions that mean pretty much the same thing. Solo can be on my own or by myself. You can also say alone. I went to the nightclub alone. I went to the nightclub on my own. Or I went to the nightclub by myself.
So apart from my, it could obviously be on his own, by himself. On her own, by herself. On our own, by ourselves, etc.
And the last one, number 30. She asked me where was the money, and I just laughed. What's the problem there, Reza?
It's very similar to number 24. If you remember 24, indirect questions again. She asked me, where was the money? She asked me where the money was. And I just laughed. Because instead of asking directly, where was the money? I'm reporting what she said. It's not the actual direct question. It's an indirect question because it's being reported. She asked me where the money was. So the order follows the normal affirmative order. First the subject, the money, then the verb to be, was. Because it isn't a question. I'm just reporting her question.
If you would like a grammar reference for your phone, we do sell one on the website at Mansion Inglés. It's very, very expensive though. It's €2.99.
Ooh, that's a lot of money.
So yeah, it's nearly €3. If you would like to buy that, download it to your phone and put some grammar in your pocket. Go to store.mansioningles.com. net.
Imagine €2. You would have to do without a canya and
Two canyas.
or even a glass of wine just to get it.
Or a couple of cups of coffee. We would like to know what you want us to talk about in future podcasts. So please send us your voice messages and say hello. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your name. And tell us what you would like to hear about in future episodes. You can do that by sending a voice message to speakpipe.com, speakpipe/Ingles podcast, or just record your voice and send us an email with the voice message attached. Reza, where can they send their emails to?
Well, you can find Craig. He's Craig@inglespodcast.com, or me, belfastreza@gmail.com.
And before we go, a thank you to all of our Patreons on patreon.com who are supporting the podcast. You can see their names, our wonderful co-producers, on the website at inglespodcast.com. Special thanks to Bruno, our gold sponsor, who offers walking tours of Copenhagen in English and in Spanish. His website for that is copenhagenwalkingtour.com. If you're going to Rio de Janeiro on holiday or for business, why not take a walking tour around the favela area? Bruno has a website for that also, favelawalkingtour.com.br. The tours are led by local guides. They're very safe, and the money you pay helps the local community. Reza, if people want to join our program, where can they go to do that, and how much would they pay?
Well, from as little as $1 per month, you can join the Patreon scheme. Just go to Patreon, that's Patreon, patreon.com/English podcast. And when you pay that $1 a month, you can get instant access to the recent transcriptions of the audio that have been lovingly transcribed as ever by Angelica Bello from Madrid.
We'd like to say thank you to our new supporters, and apologies if you have joined recently and you don't hear your name as a new supporter. That's because we record these episodes in advance. You will hear your name eventually, but we want to thank Caro Torres, Jose Maria Hernandez, Carmen Martinez, Rafael Castro Guzman, who are the most recent members of our Patreon scheme. What's next week, Reza?
On next week's episode, we're talking about, ready for this? Romantic body language.
Wow. We'll look forward to seeing you next week for some romantic body language. Until then, thank you very much for listening today. Until next week, have a wonderful week. It's goodbye from me.
And bye-bye from me.
Music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.